In 1961, the Soviet Union launched the first human into space. In 1969, America put the first man on the moon. In 2019, China landed the first spacecraft on the far side of the moon. Since day one, the spaceflight industry has been extremely competitive, with countries developing the most advanced technologies and pushing the boundaries of what humans are capable of. But one country that isn't often mentioned in the history of spaceflight is India. For decades, the Indian Space Agency has been quietly working away and achieving some incredible results. When India began their space program in 1969, they entered into a world dominated by America and the Soviet Union. At that time in India, the people had nothing. It was a strange time to start a space program. NASA were spending around $40 billion each year in today's money. India came onto the scene with a mere $1 billion. So, in order to make any impact, they had to get smart. India gave more focus on using their space programs to improve aspects of their own country. Over the next decade, India began launching satellites to provide communications and important weather data to improve the farming industry. So, as an agricultural country, this gave a huge boost for the space programs. The early days of India's space program were extremely humble. Rocket parts were often transported by bike, and large components like satellites were transported by bull carts. During this time, India's space program employed just 3,000 workers. To put this into perspective, NASA was employing around 200,000 workers during the Apollo program. Nowadays, the employee count between ISRO and NASA is much more similar. India's space program pays far less for its skilled workforce than any other space agency. This massive difference in cost allows India to undercut other countries on the cost to manufacture each rocket. Although most of India's rockets are only designed to launch small payloads, in some cases, the cost for launching on an Indian rocket is 70% cheaper than other options. The PSLV is India's workhorse rocket, and it has a surprisingly low launch cost of just 15 million. In 2017, it pulled off a mission that stunned space programs around the world by launching an incredible 104 satellites into orbit. But India's cheap workforce is only half of what makes their rockets so affordable. Instead of outsourcing rocket parts to foreign companies, India gets most of its materials from local companies. Although they might be able to find more advanced components elsewhere, keeping all of the parts in-house saves India up to 50% in overall costs. Nowadays, the technology required to get into orbit is much more obtainable. It has allowed private companies like SpaceX and Rocket Lab to make a massive impact in the spaceflight community. But this is one area that holds India back. Although it's not illegal for India's private companies to enter space, the laws and regulations make it almost impossible for private space ventures to set up. India's interplanetary missions in the past have been limited in terms of what they can discover. But this isn't a fault of India's space program, this is by choice. A common theme that runs through India's space program is high ambition paired with a low budget. As the founding father of ISRO, Vikram Sarabhai used to say, there are some who question the relevance of space activities in a developing nation. To us, there is no ambiguity of purpose. We do not have the fantasy of competing with the economically advanced nations in the exploration of the moon or the planets or manned spaceflight. But we are convinced that if we are to play a meaningful role nationally and in the community of nations, we must be second to none in the application of advanced technologies to the real problems of man and society. India always wanted to go to the moon and Mars, and they didn't let their small budget stop them. The Mars Orbiter mission, which launched in 2013, made India only the fourth space agency to successfully get to Mars, and they did it on their first attempt. They also did this on a small budget of just 74 million, a fraction of what other space agencies typically spent. Apart from making the spacecraft small and simple, India likes to keep the overall duration of the mission as short as possible. India's missions are designed to run only for a few years. Although India's capabilities and achievements might not be on the same scale as NASA, the incredible ambition and clever cost efficiency has allowed them to become one of the world's key players in the space community. From cycling rocket parts back and forth to launching spacecraft to other planets, ISRO's ability to achieve so much with so little is an inspiring story which sums up the Indian spirit.